DeMeco Ryans was with the Niners the last few seasons, their defensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach of the Houston Texans, and he took Bobby Slowick, the Niners pass game coordinator, with him. Why do you think DeMeco won't do well in Houston?
Oh, I don't think he'll do well. Okay. He's supposed to be a good guy. He has very good press. I don't know him, so I don't have an opinion one way or another, although there's something that troubles me that I'll get to in a minute. The criticism I'm going to make of Ryans is the same criticism I'll make of Saleh. Both of them are excellent defensive coordinators. I don't think anyone doubts that. And I admire them for what they do. Saleh, in addition, is a nice man because when Mom died, he contacted you. And no coaches on the Niners did. He did from New Jersey, and that goes a long, long way with me.
It's true.
So that's a big deal. In each case, they took an offensive coordinator as their offensive coordinator, some non-entity from the 49ers coaching staff.
Who had never called a play.
Who'd never called a play. Saleh took the younger, what's his name, LaFleur?
Mike LaFleur, yeah.
I mean, who the hell is he? And he just fired him because he wasn't that good. And then he hired Hackett, who's a demonstrable failure. And then DeMeco hires Slowick, who is a non-entity and has never called a play. Yeah. And who knows how he'll do as a coordinator. He may be as bad as Mike LaFleur. So Iggy and I have different answers to why each of them grabbed on to a former 49er non-entity and held on for dear life. I'm going to give my interpretation first. I think Iggys may be more powerful, but since I'm talking Iggy, is that okay? My feeling about Saleh and Ryans is all they are is defensive coordinators. They don't have the large scale, the large television screen that lets them know that lets us know they're connected in the league. In fact, they were only connected on the 49ers. They weren't like someone like John Lynch who knows someone everywhere. There are certain Belichick knows people everywhere and can get coaches. These guys don't know anyone, so they are doomed to get non-entities from the 49ers because it's the best they can do, and that is going to hurt. It's already hurt Saleh. I mean, look at his offense is a mess. It's already hurt him, and I'm telling you, Iggy, it may doom Ryans in Houston. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. I mean, they're not connected. They're not that connected. They know Kyle Shanahan is – well, Kyle Shanahan has a tree. He has a tree of coaches, and they're pulling – Saleh and DeMeco are pulling from them, but it's limited, and they can't go outside the tree. Nathaniel Hackett worked for Matt LaFleur, who is a friend of Robert Saleh. They can't go outside the tree, and they're afraid to. It's like you could maybe – you're a head coach. You could interview whoever the hell you want and possibly – hire someone you don't know because you've determined from the interview that he's the best man for the job. But are you insecure about it? Are you scared about working with someone you don't know? A lot of times coaches really only want to work with people they know very well because they're afraid the other coach is going to try to, I don't know, like work against them or they can't trust them for whatever reason. And I think that speaks to an insecurity. You got to be able to bring in the best guys for the job, not just the best guys you know.
And the other thing, Iggy, and this is a point you made earlier today when we were on the phone, the only offensive system they know is Kyle's. So they only want people to come in, and these are weak carbon copies of Kyle, right, and run Kyle's offense as opposed to a really original thinking, dynamic man who can say, you know what, I'm not going to run Kyle's offense. We're the Houston Texans. I'm going to run this goddamn offense, and it's going to be better for our team. And I don't think Ryans has the antennae or the knowledge to pick that up.
Also, Kyle has limitations, but he is creative, and his offense changes every year. So if you're bringing in Bobby Slowick this year, you're just getting a carbon copy of last year's Kyle Shanahan offense. So he evolves, you don't. You're not even as good at what he used to be doing. You're trying to recreate what he used to do, and he's on to the next thing. And all the defensive coaches have figured out what he used to do. So that's why Mike LaFleur failed immediately. And that's why I think Bobby Slowick will fail too. You're just bringing in a scheme. You're not really bringing in a coach with any experience or
ideas.
Ideas, anything. Anything.
And that's why I think Ryans is going to fail in Houston. And I want to say something else about him that was very disappointing. In Houston, they had a very good offensive coordinator, George Warhop.
Offensive line coach.
I'm sorry, guy. I'm a little worked up now. Offensive line coach. He's one of the best in the league, and he's an African-American man. Iggy, you may know this better than I. As far as I understand it, well, first of all, he black offensive line coach in the league, George.
I think there might be one or two more, but for a long time he was the only one.
Okay, so he's a rarity.
Yes.
Okay, so the way I understood it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when Ryans took over, he spoke to George Warhop, black man to black man, and indicated he might be keeping him on the staff.
Yep.
As a result, George did not look for other jobs. If I'm stating this wrong, please correct me, Iggy. Then after a 2-week period, Ryans called him up and said he was going in a different direction. Well, so what he did was he didn't give him the job and he blocked George from getting another job. George is 63. It might have ended his career. And the point is, George is really good. Everyone knows he's one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. In addition, now I don't know who he hired as an offensive line coach. Maybe he's a black guy. I don't know who he hired. But here is one black guy. They're always talking about we need black coaches, right? We need to support. Black coaches need to. The whole league needs to. But here is a black coach who can do something good for a quality black coach. Not only didn't he take him, he screwed him. And I got to tell you, I have always heard that Ryans is a good guy. This is not a good look. This is not the way a gentleman acts. And DeMeco, if I have the facts wrong, I certainly apologize. Please get in touch with me, and I will retract if I got it wrong. But I think Iggy and I have a pretty good source on this.
I mean, DeMeco could have called Joe Staley. George Warhop used to be the offensive line coach here. Joe Staley knows him. Joe Staley could have vouched for him. He could have called Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. He was with the Browns. Warhop coached him. From what I understand, DeMeco didn't call Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas was eager to speak on Warhop's behalf and explain how instrumental he was in Joe Thomas's development, but DeMeco didn't do that. It was very bad, very bad. And it's not just that he screwed over someone. It's like he was backhanded about it, you know? He was backhanded about it.
Backhanded. Not courageous.
No.
If you don't want him, tell him. Give him a chance. Free him up. So I'm going to make a more general statement now. I know a lot of football coaches. I mean, I know a lot of football coaches, former, very few current. And there's a lot of bullshit in football about we want men of character. We develop character. That's a lot of bullshit. That's just public relations. Football coaches are as flawed as everyone else. And if these stories about DeMeco are correct, and again, DeMeco, if I'm wrong, please correct me. It's disappointing if it's true, and it doesn't speak well of his character. He may be a nice man, and I assume he is a nice man, but there's a difference between being nice and being a stand-up guy. And in this case, if I'm correct, I apologize if I'm wrong, but if I'm correct, he wasn't a stand-up guy. And you know what? It's more important to be someone you can trust, who has backbone, than to be nice.
Yeah. I don't understand what he did there, but why would you, if you're going to fire a guy, do it immediately so he can get another job. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
And Iggy, now who he hired, is it a man of color? I don't know.
No. It's a white guy.
Well, Usually I don't like to talk about race, but I don't know. Maybe in this case he could have looked out for George Warhop, or he could have done due diligence. I think it's very disappointing.
Because it's not only that he fired George, it's like he ended his career. Like he fired him at the end of the coaching cycle. Like why would you could have fired him 3 weeks ago, man. Why'd you do that? Why would you do that? Yeah.
It's a bad move. And what you do is, it's a very cruel business, but when new coaches come in, if they don't want people from the former staff, they let them go right away. And it's an act of kindness, because then they can apply for another job.
There's only so many of them, and they're going right now. Anyway, yeah. That was, to me, again, like you get this job at 38 as a head coach, and the first thing you do is start screwing people over. Like, I don't know. And the best you can bring in is Bobby Slowick. Yeah, I'm not betting on you. I don't know.
On you.
I'm not betting on you.
Those two moves are not impressive.
No, and then the big one is just hiring defensive coaches at all. Like, why are you doing that? Again, it's an offensive league. And the defensive coach, he could be the greatest leader, the greatest defensive tactician. It's an offensive league. Even Bill Belichick, you took Tom Brady away from him. What the hell is he doing in New England these days?
Right.
Not much. So
right.
I just don't understand why you're hiring these defensive coaches as head coaches. They're always going to be only as good as their offensive coordinator, and they're not going to have good offensive coordinators. And if they do, for whatever reason, that guy will be a head coach in a year or two. So,
yeah. In fact, I told you what Bill Walsh said about guys like that. He said they're at the mercy of their coordinators, and I never want to be like that.
Yeah, if you think about it, the most important coach on the Texans is Bobby Slowick. The success of that franchise is dependent on Bobby Slowick more than it is DeMeco. So, good luck. The thing is, DeMeco does have a 6-year contract, so maybe he'll be able to get a second offensive coordinator when he fires the first, like Saleh.
Iggy, they gave him a 6-year contract?
Yeah, they gave him a 6-year contract. God love him. I don't know how he got that. He was a coordinator for 2 years. 2! And he had Nick Bosa. I'm sorry. I feel like Steve Wilkes going to do a great job too, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think Steve Wilkes will do a good job.
He's going to do a great job.
I really respect him as a defensive coordinator.
He might do better.
Yeah. 6-year contract?
6-year contract.
For DeMeco Ryans?
Yeah.
Iggy, I'd give him a 2-year contract with a 3rd-year option. Let's see what you got.
I wouldn't have hired him. He's a defensive coach. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's defense. They don't let you play it in the NFL anymore. There are rules against it. You can't touch the quarterback. You can't hold the wide receivers at all. What are you talking about?